Hey guys, better late than never for my lesson plan. So, for my lesson plan, I decided to do a recreation and leisure art project for my lesson. I personally love art, and I believe that people who think they don't like art can enjoy it. And I think even though there's varying range of talents for what people can do with art, everyone's art is different, and everyone's art is something that they can be proud of. So I think that's some concepts I really wanna emphasize with my lesson, and I want to apologize in advance. I am not teaching this to real students. There's a real possibility that my cat will jump in front of the camera during this, so I apologize in advance if that happens. All right. So typically my classroom is going to be, so typically this would be for a transition class. And I was thinking that it would be like anywhere between 8 and 20 students, depending on if it's an individual classroom or if it's like a big group thing. Um, and I would say that my audience or my students would be like moderate to high functioning ASD, DCD students. I just picked that because that's kind of my wheelhouse for as far as my preferences go with students. So yeah, and so my learning targets that I created for this lesson, the first one is students will follow step-by-step directions to create their own art project as modeled by staff. And then the second one is students will be able to work cooperatively in groups by sharing supplies and helping one another. So those are the two things I really want my students to work on. I don't want to focus on their art being the best art that I've ever seen, but I do want them to be able to pay attention and focus, which I know can be hard for students with ASD specifically, and follow the step-by-step directions on how to create this art project. And you know what? Like, however theirs turns out is fine as long as they follow the step-by-step directions. I would say it's a success. And then each student would have their own supplies, but they're all going to be working like at groups together. And some students might find some of the steps to be a lot easier than others. So I want to always encourage my students during this lesson to feel free to help out other students if they notice that they're struggling or if the teacher is too busy with another student and they can't answer another question. So first off, before we get started, I kind of wanted to talk to my students about what's the purpose of this? Like, why am I forcing art on all of you? And I'm not necessarily forcing art on all of them, even though that's the lesson we're doing, but more of I want to share the importance of recreation and leisure in their lives. It's kind of something that I feel like is ignored as far as transition goes, because it doesn't seem as important as like employment or post-secondary. But I know for a lot of our students that when they're not working or they're not at school, they kind of just lay around at home all day, and sometimes a lot of them eat junk food a lot or just watch TV. And that's why I personally believe that it's really important to find a hobby that's recreation and leisure related that does not include sitting in front of a TV or eating food. So an art would be more of a leisure activity because it doesn't require a lot of physical uh, exercise, but it's something that can be fun for everyone if they find kind of what fits their interests. And it's something that can be stress relief, which I think for our students is good because, you know, on top of their disability, if they have a job, if, you know, they have bills and all these other things with, you know, whatever might happen post secondary, just to have something like art that they can go to relieve stress at home, um, and just, you know, do that type of thing. And then, so like I said, following multi-step directions in life, just in general, that's something all of our students are going to be able to have to do, and we have to like master kind of at a certain level. You know, they're never going to work completely independently for their entire lives. They're going to have to follow direction from someone that is modeling something to them and kind of, you know, repeat that. And then the purpose of this lesson also is kind of what I already said of working together, being able to help each other, being able to share supplies when needed. So yeah, so let's begin the lesson. So this picture right here would be the painting that they're going to recreate, and Maureen might actually recognize. kind of like this because someone came into her transition program last year and did something like this. But so the first thing we'll do is we'll show students this finished product first. So like, and the idea is actually for it to be kind of daunting, like, holy cow, how am I gonna make that? But then like tell them like if they follow the step-by-step directions, and really focus, like they can make birch trees in a forest too, and they can be proud of it. So all students will have their own canvas and art supplies provided to them. And we'll begin by showing the first steps of just mixing the colors together. So that's important. So like we'll have just your base colors, but it's like, hey, how do we make green if we don't have green? And we mix blue and yellow together. So kind of modeling that and having everyone, mix their blue and yellow together and making green and talking about that, how different colors, when they're mixed, make other colors, and how, when we paint, sometimes we don't need all the different colors of a rainbow. Sometimes we might only need four or five, and by mixing them, we can make all these different types of colors. So after mixing the colors, we continue with the steps, making sure, so as the teacher, I'm making sure through each step to scan the room and be really involved and walk around and be available for help. I want to make sure that every student is on the current step that I am at modeling, and if even one student is behind, to make sure that student is caught up before moving ahead, because I know students, especially with ASD, they fall behind and the student or the teacher moves ahead. That can be really frustrating for them, and they might just give up altogether. So the idea is, we're all kind of in this together. We're all a team, and we're all going to do this, and encourage, like I said right here, other students to help. You're only one teacher who can only help one student at a time, and I guess you would have pairs too who would be moving around and helping. And then I think one really important thing, and it's the last thing I wrote here, is encouraging the fact that everyone's will look different. Um, you know, the model is unique because that is what one person made. And each one that each student makes is going to be unique because that is what they made. And no one's is better than another's. And that's kind of the point of art. No artist has ever started a project and it ended up the way that they originally envisioned it. You kind of make adjustments and you make your own original painting or whatever, and that's kind of what makes it special. And that's what kind of makes it, a stress relief. So assuming like, we go through all the steps and then we're doing all this art. So this is kind of after the art projects are all done and we hang them up and we show them off. So wrapping up, again, we'll just summarize the importance of the lesson and just the importance of recreation and leisure in general, that our students need to find hobbies and find healthy alternatives instead of, a ton of TV or video games to, just fill their time, that and be time fillers that they enjoy, that, like I said, relieve stress and is something that they're proud of and something they can hang up in their apartment or anything like that. And then to go into like the culturally diverse learning, explain how art is kind of universally loved all over the world. Every single culture has their own type of art, and every culture accepts art, and every culture's art is unique, and how we can learn a lot from each other's art and each other's culture in that way. And then at the end, kind of wrapping up, if we want to continue this art project thing of following this multi-step directions, we can vote on what type of art project the class wants to create for next time, whether that be kind of a different style of art or art of a different culture, or if one student who is really, really interested in art wants to possibly lead the lesson next time with the help of a teacher. So those are just some options, and that's my lesson plan. So once I figure out how to shut off my recording, then that's it. Thanks for watching.